Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
I'm a hot mess.
And I'm Scott, and welcome to Witches Betwixt.
Sophia pretty much set the tone for today's episode. um, in witch and queer communities, it can get very muddled very quickly, as to who to talk to and who to trust and who goes where and what does what. So we're here to talk about all of that. We're going to try and encompass a lot of things. I hope this episode isn't too broad, but I'm pretty excited about it. So, Sophia, do you want to
I'll
kind
fucking
of start us off?
I'll just take it right in. Okay. So like I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. I like to kind of peruse around, check stuff out. Um there's something in the witchcraft community I've noticed that is a little bit of an issue. I noticed it a lot more prevalent when I was exploring the New Age community in my younger years, about like 10 years ago. And it's basically, honestly, it's confirmation bias. There was this thread that I was reading, and I am going to name the group because it doesn't help anybody to not talk about it, which is Learning Corner. There's a thread where someone burnt a piece of paper over a candle, then threw the burning paper and the candle like into the wax, and then wondered why like the paper caught on fire. And I was just, I
Yeah,
was
that's
very
what it
nice
was.
about it. I was pointing out that it's a very logical thing that happens when you put paper in candle wax. It naturally acts as a second wick, and this is something for everybody to be careful of, because it's one of the easiest ways to start a house fire with witchcraft is combining ashes with wax, because it creates a fuel source. And I gave her a warning, like, be very careful, you can burn your house down with this, right? And then she's like, yeah, I get you, but what does it mean spiritually? And I'm like, well, I'm not of the belief that everything necessarily has like a spiritual meaning you can try and extrapolate out of it. Like you could try and pull a personal meaning out of it, right? Like maybe she wanted to dump the ashes in the flame to get rid of something, right? But like to wonder why it lit on fire to me was like kind of a question that was a little bit absurd, you know? And because I didn't really confirm what she was looking for, and then somebody else on another thread said, this seems foggy. We should ask the admins to come in and tell us what this means. And I made posts and I was like, no, admins are just people with a badge. They aren't necessarily an authority. You can't just like take their word as gospel. And then on the other thread, I was like, you really got to take stuff at a serious face value sometimes. Like, it's a conversation that was going on in DKMU fairly recently, is what actually constitutes magic. And our mutual friend that Jay and I know, Scott knows as well, was like, not everything is magic. Not every act that
yeah,
you do
yeah.
is magic. Every act can become magical, especially if you're working it and doing it with intent. But not every little single thing that you do is the same as like going and casting a spell, you know? Like,
hmm
It's
there's
like
like,
you were
sure.
saying in the comments in that particular thread, because I had saw your I had because I'm in the same group, and I saw your response to the candle thing, like, oh, why did the paper set on fire? And I was like, well, because if you drop paper in a candle, it sets on fire, you know.
Yeah.
And I saw your comment, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, they were really just looking for this kind of like magical meaning, and it's like you were saying in the I think there's a couple other comments that you had made on there too, was saying, if you light a match, you light a match. Lighting a match in and of itself is not magical. Like, anyone can light a match, but it's the intent behind it. It's what you do with the match. It's how, you know what I mean? Like, it's that whole
Right.
process of lighting the match.
Yeah. Um, and like I was having a very civil conversation about it, and I thought I was gonna get somewhere good, and they just fucking banned me. They didn't they didn't give me a warning. They didn't tell me what I was doing wrong. I failed to comply in the way that I didn't provide an echo chamber format, and I was not subservient to the admins. And this was enough for my outright ban and removal from the group without any oversight or explanation. Now, this is what troubles me a little bit because, like, there used to be some degree of fucking accountability in communities. Like, on forums, if you were going to get banned, there was such a fucking process for it. Like, smaller stuff would have your posts removed by moderators. If it was like menial, they wouldn't bother you to message you. But like, if you were making an infraction, they let you know. They talk to you about it. They would explain why the behavior is unacceptable. If you were doing something that was obviously unacceptable, like being racist, yeah, they'd outright ban you. But like, I wasn't. I was simply having a discussion, and I think it's weird because this is what happened a lot with the New Age community way back when. You had a lot of these people who wanted to be self-proclaimed gurus who knew all this stuff. And it's fairly known knowledge right now that witchcraft is a bit of a trend. A lot of people are doing it because it's trendy or cool. And that's always an ample ground for people who want to position themselves as an authority over someone, and they have something to gain from it. So they act like they have this knowledge, and sometimes they do have legit knowledge, and you can see very well-meaning people run away and do absurd things simply because power was introduced to them on something they'd never had before, right? Like, you take somebody who in their day-to-day life outside their craft feels a little powerless, right? Like disenfranchised, stuck working a job, I can relate. And all of a sudden you give them like admin over a group of 20,000 people and like the ability to make decisions that affect the community. That power can be intoxicating. And I've adminned a lot of groups. Like, I'm not too proud of it, but I did moderate Spirit Sciences forums way back in like 2011 and 2012, right? And like, I've seen what happens when you give someone the power to just push a button and delete someone, or the ability to like shape someone's worldviews, and it's a very dangerous thing and a bit of a slippery slope that I'm kind of worried about and wanting to draw attention to. And it's not even like that group per se is the problem. Like, they're a 20,000 person group. What happened to me was probably the action of one admin, and it probably had little to no oversight, and then little to no accountability, and most of the mods would have been relatively unaware of the whole discussion that went down, and that's it, right? So like, I understand that like that's an isolated incident between them and I, but at the same time we need to be wary of that as a community, you know, and like hold space to talk about our responsibility in sharing this stuff with others, and not shaping someone's worldviews to be something that echoes ours, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for someone to chip in there.
No, I was letting you you have the floor
yeah,
there with that, definitely.
Yeah.
Because that I'm actually scrolling through the group right now because I haven't said anything to get me banned yet, which apparently is not hard to do. And I'm looking, and a lot of this stuff is very like new agey stuff. Like, I don't know. It's very watered down, I suppose. Some of it.
Which is weird, because I plugged them like 2 episodes ago when I just joined them. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we have this really good organization format.
They're very
they're
a very active group. The way that they have it all organized is actually where I drew some inspiration for how we organized our Facebook group. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I agree with the way that they moderate their conversations, because basically they had taken your explanation of science, of a scientific fact, and basically just thought you were just being like a troll about it, you know, just trolling and, you know, just being
Did
negative.
They say that I was troll?
No, I'm actually trying to find the exact post, but again, there's 20,000 people in this group, so that's gonna be pretty tough to do. But no, they didn't say you were trolling, but that's really the impression that they gave off by swinging the banhammer, because you were just explaining something. You weren't, you know what I mean? You weren't like, I don't know, like mansplaining.
I wasn't
You know?
belittling anyone. I wasn't telling them they
No.
were
Oh, I found the
foolish. I
post.
wasn't trying to hurt their feelings. I wasn't trying to do anything other than help them not mistake hopefulness for results, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was actually a couple people in here that were backing you on it. And that was nice to see, that some people were kind of like, yeah, totally, because that's science and that's how science works, you know?
I would appreciate you asking why I got banned for what I was asking, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look around. I think what it was is this one person kind of jumped in and said, this is the witch's learning corner, and we're all learning from each other. Plus, we all believe in magic in this group, and things like that are symbolic to us. A little more compassion would be greatly appreciated. Peace. So, basically, they took your very matter-of-fact scientific answer as you not having compassion for this.
Was my response not below that? Because I wrote a response to that,
yes,
but I got
you did
banned.
write a response. And you said, giving an honest answer is compassion. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, just like I'm not going to be mean about it either. If you think I'm being unkind with my words, I encourage you to see the value in constructive criticism. And then I guess they called an admin in, and the admin actually said, I don't see any problem here. Let's just keep it peaceful, please. So I think someone really thought that you were trying to come at them. Like, I think they really, really came at you for this because no reason. And another person said, maybe it's just because paper is flammable. You know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing a quick scroll. And then some of these answers are very, new age shop answers, like meditate on it and find your truth. If I hear find your truth,
actually?
Yeah, literally. One of the last comments is meditate on it and find your truth.
That's literally like New Age Bullshit Generator. There's like a website you can look up right now called New Age Bullshit Generator. If it's still up, it's amazing. And it literally just random generates words together, and it sounds like the type of shit that people would just say. And it, woof. Fucking, I want to look.
Yeah. I just wanted to kind of make a little bit of a disclaimer thing here. We're not trying to come at this group. If you're a part of this group, fine. Like, I'm still in it, and I scroll around and whatnot. I'm also more of a lurker than Sophia tends to be in Facebook groups. I kind of lurk more than I post. But no, we're not coming at this group. We're not saying, oh, they're canceled, they're this, they're that. But there are groups like this out there that we kind of touched on this topic slightly when we talked about toxic positivity. I believe we did an episode on that. Toxic positivity, too much love and light, when everyone's like, you can't, like, everything has a positive spin, everything is happy, everything is this, and it really just glosses over the really important things that are happening, such as don't burn your house down, or be careful, or, things like that. So we're not coming at this group, but we just want people to know that groups like this exist, and there's no shame in being a part of them, because you might stumble across a spell that looks really cool, or you're like, oh wow, that's a really neat tarot deck that you have, where can I buy that? So there are little gems that you can pull from groups like these, but also like look through all the pretty things and see the things that kind of make you raise your eyebrow, and you're kind of like, oh wait, what is this? What's going on here? Scott, did you want to jump in with anything? Is there any particular experiences that you wanted to talk about in regards to this?
I think I have I have one in particular about that I remember from a witchy group, and I remember someone was talking about the term or the title of warlock, right? We know, yeah.
Oathbreaker.
Yeah. The thing is that none of that history is 100% certain, and there are just as many scholars who believe that that comes from another word that meant spell singer or spirit worker, which is what
Actually,
that would have meant. Hmm?
before you go any further, I kind of just want to say this, that the history of witchcraft itself is not 100% certain. We pull from so many sources, and you know what I mean? It's like there's no one particular history that explains everything. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's another thing to look out for. Like when people claim that they know the history, like this is it, this is the story, I know everything. Yeah, stay away from that.
Yeah.
Also, anyone who wants to have one unbroken path throughout history.
Yeah.
That does not exist. Not anywhere. Not in modern magic or in ancient magic. It doesn't exist. It drives me nuts. I'm sorry.
No good culture.
There's no need to be sorry in this
Hear
episode.
that.
We're
No,
we're,
people
we're
need to
pulling
hear
out
that.
all the big guns.
But I someone was on there. Someone was like, is it wrong to be called a warlock? And I was one of the first people to reply, and I was like, no. And so I was like, it's. I was like Nordic origin. Here are the word, this word, blah blah blah. And I told him like this is why it's okay, and I gave him the history of the word as far as warlock being spell singer, spirit worker, whatever. And I said, it's actually a very sacred word, or at least it could have been. It most likely was at one time. And I got sort of attacked for it. All of a sudden, people are like, well, because someone had, right, it was sort of not necessarily in reply to the person that posted before me, but it was more like just talking directly to the person and contradicting the person that posted before me. And I wasn't trying to be an asshole. I really wasn't. I just was posting my opinion. Without addressing. And this might have been wrong, but I thought that by not addressing the other guy, I was creating less drama. But apparently, that would like all of a sudden someone was on there was like grabbing popcorn, and I was like, oh fuck, here we go. Like this person had to come on there out of nowhere and be like, oh, this is gonna be interesting, getting popcorn. And I was like, I don't know what you're getting. I was like, I'm not fighting with anybody. Like this isn't what this is devolving into, you know. So that was a thing. People had opinions of, I mean, people defended me, much like people defended Sophia, but I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know why we're like this in the community. I mean, it's to the point to where like I actually have had people, and I think I've said this in another episode, but it drives me nuts and it fits here anyway, where people have defended like how like witches can be very catty and magical practitioners, we all talk shit about each other, and this tradition does this and this tradition doesn't know that,
Yeah.
and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Someone was like, well, like they actually were, I mean, they pulled out literary sources to kind of be like, well, we've always kind of been like this. And I was kind of like, yeah, but ancient druids had a ritual in which they would slaughter an entire village of people in order to turn the Roman gods against them. I was like, but we don't do that now do we? Like
Right.
we can evolve, you know what I mean? Like just because they used to do like dumb stuff, where people were pompous and douchey doesn't mean that we have to be, like the same, you don't understand what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I do. Because it's kind of like you were saying, like, how they had these rituals that did XYZ, and we've evolved from that. And I hate when people say that witchcraft is a return to the old ways. And I'm like, no, it's just witchcraft. It evolves with the times. It evolves with the people. It evolves with us, because we kind of talked about this before. Like, it is in itself kind of
Yeah.
sentient. You know what I mean? Like it is its own presence in our lives.
Thoughts on that, if you'd allow me.
Yeah, sure.
Like, when I feel like if we're trying to recreate witchcraft as it's always been, then you're not doing it. Because what you're doing is revering your idea of what the past is. You're essentially working with an artifact of your own perception, right? I think what would be magic as it was always done would be coming up with your own shit, would be figuring out your own spells, you know, not having all the perfect answers and fuck it up. That's how it's always been done, man. Like,
Yep.
it's been messy business, and more information has been lost than we even have now.
Yep.
And the only thing you can ever do is to just keep moving forward without trying to recreate the past and worship it for what it is. And it's great that what we have did survive, but what we can create now is so much more important than what people use just to get by. Like, there was stories of people who were descendants of witches who couldn't even read, who would like keep their ancestors' magical book as like an artifact of like power that they would use, and they would cast magic by instinct even though they were illiterate, you know, and use this item to draw like energy from their ancestors. Like, so much of magic and witchcraft has been like on a survival basis, that just getting out there and doing it is that's it, baby.
That's why.
You know,
That's why.
I'm sorry.
No,
We're
I'm sorry.
both very excited about this. No, go ahead, Scott.
I was just gonna say, that's why to all of any of our younger viewers, any of our up and coming viewers, I do want to speak directly to you, just because you do fit kind of a demographic. I know that traditional craft looks beautiful, and it is, but there's something that's not talked about a lot. And when it is, it's always in a very condescending way. So I'm going to try to address this and directly to you politely. Traditional craft, to use this quote, and I actually can use it perfectly now, is not the worship of ashes, but the continuation of a flame. Witchcraft is meant to grow. Witchcraft, even traditional craft, is meant to grow with the times. It is not meant to be just a historical relic. One day your ritual tools will be a relic. You know what I'm saying? Like, the more energy you put into the thing that you work with, you don't need to go to an antique shop and buy a $500 cast iron cauldron. Just buy one new, and if you need one, you don't need one of those either. You don't need anything really. But the point is that just grow with yourself. If you want to study whatever you want to study, do so. But remember that magic, it's a part of you. You are it. It is you. It's what It's just. I hate to be cheesy, but I'm totally gonna do it. It's kind of inside of you. It is you. And you create it. You make it what it is for you, and go from there. And I hope that makes sense.
That
I
makes
agree.
sense, and it's wonderfully magical, girl.
What happened?
I said it's wonderfully magical, girl. Like the power of friendship. Believe in yourself. It's true, though.
It is very true. It does sound a little hokey, like when you say it, but it is completely true. And especially, like, don't fall, and it's like Scott was saying, don't fall into the trap of feeling like you need these antique things. Like, my first altar was honestly a shoebox. It was an empty shoebox, and it was perfect for me because I could fit all my little things in the shoebox. So I could just put the shoebox away, My first altar cloth was a pillowcase that I put on top of the shoebox when I wanted to practice magic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
My first, I had, I was like 16. I stole one of my dad's lighters. Well, maybe borrowed. however you want to put it. He smoked then. He smoked cigarettes then. So I took one of his lighters. He actually had a spare ashtray that he never used, so I took that too. And he also burned incense. I really stole a lot of things from my dad because he would burn a lot of incense and stuff to cover up the smell of cigarettes. So I took a spare ashtray that he had like laying around and some incense cones, and I took a lighter, and he never knew it was me. I don't know how he never figured this out, but yeah, those were my first ritual tools. My first wand was literally a stick outside that I was like, that's a cool stick, and that's gonna be my wand. My first athame or blade, however you want to put it, was just a penknife. It was a keychain penknife. That's what it was, and that was probably some of the most real magic that I've produced, because it was just so organic and so real to me. And when I was done doing my workings, I was able to pack everything up in my shoebox, and I tucked it, I think, under my bed or in my closet or something, and it just looked like a shoebox. So don't feel like you need all these things of grandeur and this and that. Like, your tools are your tools. Your tools could be a butter knife. It doesn't particularly matter. And honestly, fuck anyone who says otherwise because they don't know shit. Um, Witchcraft evolves with the person and with the people who practice it. Like, my witchcraft has evolved. My ritual tools have evolved because my paychecks have evolved. Like, I made some more money, so I was able to get some nicer quality things. But that doesn't mean that my magic is better. Because of the quality of those things, my magic is better because I'm older and wiser and I've practiced it more.
Yeah.
Like, my magic's more refined, but I do still miss that raw, like, beginner stuff that I was doing. Cherish those moments too, because you'll never be able to replicate that. Like,
Can I
that
just say,
beginning steps into magic.
yeah, and like that's a wonderfully D&D metaphor to start off with, like a pen knife and a stick and like a shoebox altar, and then to move up to your actual equipment. Like that's more expensive once you can afford it because you've refined your craft. It's super D&D.
Yeah, really,
Totally.
like, I leveled up. It's like
Yeah.
like when I was playing RuneScape. You just start with like a little knife, you poke things.
And
That's
goblins are like your worst fucking enemy.
Yeah, exactly. I think I had actually found this thing called Shoebox Wicca, and it was this like little plan of like everything that you can fit in a shoebox, and I was like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I know
Um,
what you're talking about.
yeah,
Because that's like tools that empower people. Like, to kind of circle back to the idea of the episode, that's when someone's really helping you, is when they're giving you stuff to work with rather than stuff to believe, you know? Like, I'm of the opinion that most good air quotations teachers will kind of let you figure out your beliefs, and they'll tell you what theirs are, but they won't like try and make you see it that way. They want to encourage you to figure it out for yourself, right? Like, that's something that's kind of missed by a lot of people who kind of want to take advantage of people. They really want you to believe something, right? And when someone really wants you to believe something, you got to ask, like, why? What does that benefit them? And a lot of the times, someone selling you their more modality or their ideas grants them social capital and influence, right? So I think that's something that we should be aware of, because I notice this in like all kinds of circles.
when you encounter these types of situations, when you encounter groups that are swinging the banhammer for giving out facts, or instances of where you're at a thing and it just feels really shady and kind of fake. What are some of the things that both of you do to kind of help you move on and move forward?
Um, I can take it off if you want.
Go right ahead. You start.
I try to not let me ever give my sovereignty away. And what I mean by that is like my personal agency. Like I'm naturally skeptical about a lot of stuff, and this has served me really well in not conflating wistful thinking with results, right? And what I always kind of remember to do is don't let someone take away your power, right? If someone's putting you in a position where you have to take their word as gospel, or they're expecting their authority from a position to be to make up for an actual opinion or discussion. Like if someone says, you have to listen to me because I'm the high priestess, instead of like saying, well, here's what you're doing wrong and here's why. That's something to be explicitly aware of, right? And the best way to put it is like, make sure you're driving your own bus. Don't be taking other people's beliefs in. Remember that you're your own person. Don't get caught up in wanting to belong in a group so much that you give away your personal identity, right? Any group that really wants to build you up and actually have you be something will encourage you to grow on your own terms, will encourage you to make mistakes and learn from them. They won't expect you to be perfect, and they want you to find your own answers and have different opinions. That's a healthy exchange. Don't get yourself into a position where you have to believe something because someone else said so. Don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like you have to work your magic a different way because someone says that's how it works. Don't make anybody else decide the rules for your magic but yourself. Now that's not to say make up bullshit that doesn't work, because it's about getting at what does work. But like you
Right.
know what's right for you. You know? Yeah. Go ahead,
You're
Scott.
saying oh no, I was just like kind of like helping you out there too. I was saying like still read and research and learn, but also
Mm-hmm.
practice. You know what I mean? Like, well, I think we said that before too. You know?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And the other thing too is to just like cleanse daily. I know I joke about trying to say banish, don't forget to banish at the end of every episode, but I fucking mean it. Like it's a serious thing that not enough people do, is get the energy from other people and all the shit from the day off of you, you know? Like think about what happens when you don't take a bath for a couple of days. And I was actually going to tie into that. A great way to banish for me personally is to do a cleansing bath. And it's not necessarily the herbs, because we talked about it earlier in the episode. If I want to make it special, I might use some like bath bombs that I got from work, or maybe some lavender scented Epsom salts. But it's the intent behind the bath. It's the washing away of other people's influences. It's the coming out clean. It's the feeling it, the visualizing it, and the practice of doing it over time, working it, right? That's what makes it happen. It isn't the shit I'm putting in my water. It isn't the candles I'm lighting, although that certainly might help me relax. Those are just tools, you know? But in the end, make sure to wash that fucking shit off of you and actually go take a bath too, because hygiene, both in the physical and spiritual sense, is incredibly important. And very often it can lead to health issues in both regards if you don't tend to it.
You can, if I also may say too, you could just use water. I know a wonderful little cleansing spell. You don't
Water
even
and
like, yeah. Sometimes when I'm really stressed and I can't handle like just even like emotional pressure, I will run in the shower and I will have a nice warm water going in, and I take a few deep centering breaths. And I did, and by the way, I do want to admit this is not my spell. I did not come up with this in any way. This is from an author, and I can imagine one of his books. I have one of his books, and unfortunately, I cannot remember his name, so that will be in the section below. But the chant is super simple. Water wash the ill away. Water wash it gone. Water, 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 water wash it gone. And you repeat that a few times to yourself as you feel all of that stuff washing off of you. And honestly, it's super potent. Like, it's super potent magic. It works, like, pretty much, yeah, it's worked every time for me.
But also,
Just to
please use soap.
Well, another thing too, make sure when you're doing spiritual baths, make sure you get your physical bath first and then take your spiritual bath.
I mean, I actually make the soap part of the cleansing ritual.
Okay, I mean, unless you do that too, but you know.
It's kind of like the afame, like of the water, you know, it's like directing the focus of the ritual, and you can like go over each spot and be like, I ease the tension out of my arms, you know, and like things like that. Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to say, like off of like, you know, like necessarily just magical, but when you're in a situation like that, you are not bound to, like, if it's not like a tense or you know, like a situation where you feel like it's a fake situation or you feel uncomfortable and it's something you can get out of, don't feel socially obligated to stay. As someone who has anxiety and panic, and disassociation and all that other fun stuff, I've learned that some of the one of the best things you could do in a situation in which you are triggered or you are feeling uncomfortable is leave. And if people can understand that I don't feel comfortable as a you know, perfectly reasonable reason for you to get up, get your stuff, and walk out of that space, then I don't know what to tell those people. But it is a reasonable reason to leave. So that's one thing. If you're uncomfortable, leave if you can.
Can I just chip in? That's actually something my sister taught me. She had a little note she wrote herself when she moved out to the big city on her fridge, and it said, if a situation's making you uncomfortable, don't forget you can always leave. Mm-hmm. And I took that to heart, and it's a very powerful message.
Yep, it is. It really is. It actually kind of changed a lot in me when I was able to really hear it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What else do I do? So I do the water thing. I will leave. Oh man. Sometimes I'll actually throw down some cards if I need guidance. Like if I feel lost or unsure. Sometimes it helps, like when I'm nervous for something. I like just want to, like, you know, I'll ask my cards, like what to expect for this thing that I'm nervous about, you know? Yeah. And it kind of makes me feel more prepared. Mm-hmm. Oh, and also, and this is probably my last one, mindfulness. Practice mindfulness. It's hard because you have to have discipline, and I have like a hard time with that, but find a way to incorporate mindfulness into your daily life. Mindfulness is amazing, and it's healing, and yeah. So that, I think those are my...
What is mindfulness for anyone who might not really... Because it's a very loaded word.
So, no, I mean, so mindfulness is as far as a meditative practice, it comes to us seemingly, as far as I am concerned, it comes to us from the East, generally speaking, found predominantly in Zen Buddhism, but a lot of it's now used in many therapeutic mental health resources. It's all about not so many times anxiety, depression, PTSD, CPTSD. It's because we're a part of us or a part of our mind, etc. We're stuck somewhere. We're stuck in the future. We're stuck in the past, and we're not able to maintain ourselves in this moment. Mindfulness, what it does is you bring yourself back to your body. There are many meditations that you can look up. If you look at mindfulness meditation or mindfulness exercise, there are quite a few that will come up. And it's just about being in the moment. It's about putting yourself, not being with your trauma in the past, not worrying about your anxieties in the future, being here right now with your body in your space, and sitting with that. and it kind of helps to refocus. And the more you do it, the quicker it happens, and you start to be able to do it faster and faster for longer periods of time.
That state is like, I don't know if this is okay to say on the podcast or not. You can cut it out, but like at the center of any type of hallucinogenic journey, that's what always comes back to, is like an understanding of mindfulness, of like the importance of being present in the now, the current moment, because that's all you technically ever have. The future comes when it comes, yes, but when it does, it will be the now. And if it's not here, then you're wasting your current time worrying about something that is yet to arrive. Stuff along those lines, yeah.
No, totally.
Helps really center.
So I think those are my biggest tools, I think.
What about you, Jay?
For me, I think sometimes it's to my detriment, but if something aggravates me enough, I kind of just bounce. So like if I'm in a group and there's just so much nonsense going on, I'll just leave the group, block whoever I need to block, and call it a day. But I think sometimes that can be a bit of an issue because I don't really take time to kind of, not that I don't listen to both sides, but I almost sometimes feel like I just don't have time to sift through all that. Like, I don't like to go back and forth on the internet because I know it doesn't go anywhere. So when it comes to online groups, I'll kind of just leave. I'll just see myself out. Trying to get the last word in, I know, is damn near impossible and kind of pointless. So I used to kind of argue with people a little bit, or I would apologize or this or that, and I'm like, no, like I'm holding space for myself in this instance, and I'm just not gonna continue. So I will bow out, just like you guys were saying, to remove yourself from it.
Yep.
In terms of face-to-face interactions or with groups, fortunately, I have not been in too many groups face-to-face that I didn't jive with. So I've been fortunate in that regard. Now, I do encounter sometimes individuals at different gatherings and such that really rub me the wrong way. The particular archetypes of the types that I can't stand are like I'm Lady so-and-so and I'm a high priestess of blah blah blah, but they're not like an actual, like, you know what I mean? Like everyone called, like you became Wiccan, 3 minutes ago, and suddenly you're Lady Moon something, and you have a coven of 40 witches, and so that archetype I can't stand. Not that I'm necessarily like, show me your degrees or show me your receipts for things, but like just back yourself up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, where's all this coming from? For that, it depends on the situation. I kind of just, okay, and I just kind of move on. I don't really try and go back and forth with people in that regard. But in terms, I'm really into, I really like, not necessarily cleansing like you guys were saying, but I kind of pride myself on my protective barriers that I put up, and sometimes that's also to my detriment. But
yeah, I was gonna say, you mean brick walls?
Yeah, my fortresses of doom. I remember one of the first times that Scott even tried to read me. It was hard.
Oh my god, it was so hard.
Yeah, it was hard. I have so many blocks up. And I think that's just because that's just my knee-jerk reaction. That's how I protect myself. So I have very, very strong protective barriers that I have around myself. That's one of the things that I do. I really pride myself on that. And I really, really, really like amulets of different types. I always have some kind of protective amulet. whether it be a coin or a necklace or this or that, something. Sometimes it's very unassuming, and no one really know what that is. And I kind of like toy with the amulet in my pocket and stuff like that.
I just forgot to mention that too. Like I normally got at least this one pair of magical earrings on and my silver pentagram on at all times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just kind of what I do. I always keep something protective around me. That's kind of my knee-jerk reaction. Is just maximum protection. The best offense is good defense, and I kind of just like stick with that. I should probably chill out and do some more cleansing type things, but it just doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't always vibe with me. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't have time. I don't have time to sit in a bath or whatever the case is. But I do like that shower spell because that kind of works out. Like, I kinda like that.
It's always whatever works for anybody,
Lately I have been having trouble finding I guess like when you're kind of like in a meditative frame of mind, I've been kind of having trouble finding, that zero space, that nice, some people call it your happy place or whatever the case is, but I can't really access that at the moment.
Want a confession?
Hmm.
I haven't meditated it's been so long. You don't have to meditate to be a witch. You don't have to be good at meditation. And that's something I just want to throw out there.
No, but it does help. It does help if you
does.
can have some kind of mastery over it.
It's kind of like you don't have to run or jog to have good stamina, but it'll fucking help.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, my problem is right now is there's some traumatic things that have happened in the past year that when I close my eyes, when I try and settle down and I slow down, I just go right there. So that's not necessarily very conducive for good meditative practice.
Can I actually say that's one of the most important things about meditation that people try not to talk about, and it's sometimes called the dark side of meditation, where like you'll go to unpleasant things if you have like PTSD or trauma and you're facing it, right? And you said I don't think that's really good meditation, but honestly, I think that's some of the best meditation. Like, I feel like if you can get to that center where nothing's happening, great, good for you. I love it and I'm happy for you. But like somebody who used to be one of my teachers told me, anybody can find enlightenment if they isolate themselves on a mountain and speak to nobody, right? The challenge and beauty of it is like finding it in the struggles and coming through it all,
Oh my God, I absolutely love that. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, how profound. I love that. I'm sorry.
It's true though. It's true. And like confronting your innermost stressors or hardships in meditation, it's therapy. And sitting with it and feeling that emotion can help you be present and like understand how you're feeling. And like as someone who's been through loss, sitting with those feelings and acknowledging them can be the most healthy thing to helping you move on. Because if you're avoiding feeling that, you're just going to keep wanting to do it. And confronting it in a space where it's controlled, it's quiet, you're by yourself, that sounds wonderful, actually.
Combine that with mindfulness, and it gives you the ability, which I think is a superpower, to look at your feelings without attaching to them. All of a sudden, your feelings about the trauma pass by in front of your face, and you just get to look at them without having to. You're not disassociating. You understand that they're a part of you, but it's like an acceptance. And you get to look at them for all of what they are. They're good, they're bad, and they're ugly. And you get to just sit with it for a moment. And when you come back, you kind of slowly start to feel, I don't want to say better about it, but it's the only word that I know how to use. So I'm just going to say better about it. But what it is really is that it gives you a tool to kind of embrace your trauma and heal through it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it does.
Sorry, I hope we didn't usurp your talk about meditation too much.
No, not at all. I just know for me, I've always had this idea that meditation is supposed to be this, relaxing kind of thing, and I
Doesn't
never
that feel
really.
like the new age
Well-
sterilized version of it, though?
Well, maybe, but I mean, I just feel like it's supposed to relax you. It's
Well,
supposed
okay.
to help you.
So the idea, I mean, Jay, you're not wrong, right? Like meditation, pure and simple, like visualization, people get those things confused. Visualization and meditation are not the same thing. When you're
Yeah.
meditating, your job is to not focus on anything, right? Your
Right.
job is to focus on your breathing and sort of allow yourself to let go. Now, there's something also that I want to say too. People think that it's about stilling your mind. Scientifically, stilling your mind is impossible. Your mind will chatter no matter what you do. The point is what you do is you find a moment. It's like finding the space, the lull between your thoughts. It's peculiar, and I don't know how to exactly describe it because it's more of a sensation. But you find a point of stillness inside of yourself, and things will come. And without you can't see, the thing is that you can't use aggression, right? Like you can't aggressively try to move the image out of your mind, which a lot of people do. But images will come even to masters of meditation. But the thing is that what they do is they have this ability now through meditation, through mindfulness, to sort of say, I accept your presence here. This is what I'm doing right now. And all of a sudden the image floats off and then you're back to stillness. And the idea is just kind of, once again, it's about acceptance. We have to come to a place of acceptance.
And when I'm doing that, I actually like to pay attention to what's being shown, because like you've heard people say before, this vision came to me when I was meditating, and they'll think about it, and sometimes the stuff you'll see will have weight and it's worthy of your consideration. You don't necessarily want to try and hold on to it endlessly through the experience, but you don't want to try and forget it either, because you're being shown it for a reason, right? Like if you're hitting that state of vacuity where you're starting to feel not necessarily absent, but not necessarily 100% cemented, then the kind of thoughts that pop up in that space are very important to pay attention to. And if you're able to get to a point where you can be that still and you have something pop up, it's very seldomly ever going to be something mundane like, I don't like cat hair. It makes me have to clean my clothes. It's not going to be something like that, It might be like a deeper realization or a profound truth, or like something that's upsetting you that comes to your clear forefront, so you know what's bugging you. It can really give you clarity.
Mm-hmm. I totally feel what you're. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Sophia. And I agree.
Yeah.
I actually didn't expect to be taught a lesson on meditation, but now here we are. Welcome to Witches Betwixt.
Yeah. Where even meditation's accessible, bitches.
Yeah. Actually, one of the coolest tips on meditation I found was actually in a Buckland book. Was in Big Blue. Yeah. Because it was saying, like, just sit in a comfortable chair versus, don't, like, sit on the floor and, like, wrap your legs around yourself. And, like, you're not a master meditator person. You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to be uncomfortable. I thought that was actually pretty damn cool because I've never actually seen that kind of advice before. And in a book of all places. I wasn't expecting that there.
Yeah, and sometimes I do a very specific type of meditation where I don't try to still my mind at all, and I just let it go, and I pay attention to what pops up, and that's it,
Mm.
That can be a good entry point if you don't have a lot of practice at stilling your mind, because that process of just paying attention without trying to still your mind
Right.
actually does it, and it will instill the practice in you.
Right. See, you're right, exactly. Like trying to do it it doesn't ever seem to work, right? Like
I
if
don't know
you're
how we got off on the
trying
meditation
to still
tangent,
your
but
mind, it
it was
doesn't
kind of
still.
nice. It was
When
kind of
you
nice to learn
accept
something.
the thoughts,
Did you have anything
you
else you
begin
wanted to
to
add to that,
see
Scott?
past them, or
I didn't want to
whatever it
cut you off by
precisely.
saying
I
there's
don't
a
even
lot
know
of
if we
words.
have in the English language a word for what that state is. I don't even. I mean, I might just be ignorant, but I don't know if we do. I don't even, because I definitely don't
There's a
have.
lot of words. There's a lot of words. You'd be surprised as a poet. I can't tell you how many fucking words I keep finding.
Is there anything else that we kind of wanted to touch on?
Let me think for a minute. Yeah, actually, another thing that I do to take care of myself is deliberate alone time. Sometimes it's going for a walk at nighttime by myself in an area where I know I'm safe. Or maybe it's just like I mentioned, the bath. Just anything to really kind of recharge your batteries after having to deal with all the stressors and social bullshit of life. Sometimes it's just like a hot fucking cup of tea and cuddling up with your sweetheart, or reading a book or listening to a podcast, like make space for yourself to have time to relax. And I think that's something that everybody wishes they could do more, but we're just so cramped in our society. But the space in between, it holds a lot of potential for you.
If I can also say too, escapism in healthy doses is not a bad thing. Coming from somebody who works with their therapist, to have a healthier relationship with escapism, I can definitely give this as advice. As long as you're not doing it all of the time, doing things that kind of separate you from overstimulation or any stressors, stimulators is totally okay and healthy moderation.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to stim if you need to fucking stim. Screw it. Anybody else says.
I did kind of have one question, sort of, to both of you, and I suppose our viewers too. Have you ever felt as far as like the queer community is concerned? We talked a lot about the magical community just because I think it's easier to talk about the soothsayers and the falsiness of it all. But like, what about the kind of the peer pressuring queer drama? Like in particular for me, like the peer pressuring that there's a lot of peer pressure that comes along with queer culture. Like one of my biggest experiences is I'm trying to say this without giving too much away. I have a really good friend who is very, very deep into drag culture and very deep into the club culture. And he there's a lot of peer pressure when I'm around him to like do things that I don't want to do, and there's just almost like they kind of there's this kind of like they make fun almost, and it's not just him. He doesn't really make fun of me in a mean way or at all, really. He's not like that, but he has the peer pressure parts. But there are other experiences I've had with other people where they kind of make fun of quieter, more like reserved, demure queers, and I wanted to know how both of you felt about that, or have you experienced that? Do you know what I mean, etc.?
I can respond to that, sure. In my experiences with my parts of the community that I interact with, there's less pressure to partake in drugs, but that's or like do that kind of thing or like risky behavior, but that's also partly because of like where I come from my background, and how much of that I was surrounded in my youth, and knowing how to steer clear of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that isn't necessarily the queer drama that I've had to encounter. Mine's more like the experience of the queer community being a fucking field of landmines that's impossible to traverse for any trans person. And eventually, at one point, if you do social activism and you're out in any sort of level and people hear your voice, you're gonna step on something and you're gonna upset people and it's gonna blow up. And very often it leads to call out culture and people getting canceled and people getting trapdoored. And like there's this vicious cycle of queers being mean to queers. And honestly,
That too.
I fucking dipped out of the trans community activism scene after I moved out of Vancouver because I couldn't handle it anymore. It's just, it's fucking ruthless, and it chews you up and spits you out. And like, people don't want you to be accountable to be better. They want you to be held accountable so they can shame you and show how better they are because they know better. And it's like kind of fucked up sometimes. And there's been like long essays written by like queer scholars about this topic because it is something that we experience a lot. And that's kind of something that I wanted to say too, is that like you notice Scott's experience is very different from mine because we have very different lives, right? And there's not going to be like a universal experience of queer drama, but I don't know anybody who's never had none or ever had none, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Correct.
like, fuck.
If you are
But-
queer and you have gotten through this mortal coil without queer drama, come see me.
Oh,
Because
it's always
I need to
somebody.
know. I need to know
Yeah.
everything.
It's always somebody being problematic or somebody did this and it's all irredeemable, and it's always people in their young fucking 20s canceling other people's for their entire lives because they made a mistake when they were young and socially naive, and it's woof. Sorry.
For me, have I experienced drama? Yes. I don't like I wasn't necessarily involved in any of the drama, but I think I kind of experience it maybe in a passive way. So I went to like a gay bar or a gay club all of maybe 3 times in my entire life,
Mm-hmm.
and each experience was just I don't understand the club scene. I don't understand it at all. You go into a loud, noisy place and you drink alcohol and you scream at each other over the music,
I
and
hate that.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I also
Yeah.
don't
I
dance,
dance.
so I don't get that either. However, I do like drag shows. I think drag shows are very cool. I think I like the art. I like the crude comedy that often goes with it. So that I'm not opposed to, like going to a drag show, have a drink, whatever, have something like very relaxed. But the whole club scene of like, let's go out and get as fucked up as possible and just be obnoxious, I don't understand that at all. And that's just from a general queer perspective. The other thing that I encounter, I don't really know what to make of the trans male or trans masculine community. I don't really know what to make of them because half the time it's like, look, I started tea and now I'm gonna get super buff and I'm like gorgeous now. Like I was skinny before tea and now I'm just muscular after tea, and I'm like, okay, well that doesn't really represent me at all because I was fat before tea and I'm still fat. So there's that. Um, so there's like that whole body image kind of thing that I don't particularly care for. But then there's also a whole other side of the trans masculine community that are like, okay, well now that I've got this beard that I've wanted and this deep ass voice, now I'm gonna like wear dresses and do my nails and wear makeup, and I'm like, okay, cool, great, good for you, but I can't vibe with that either because that kind of shit just makes me incredibly like dysphoric. So I'm not really sure where I fit in the trans masculine community. It's like it's cool, like oh and you know what, and I don't really like vibe with cis men either because a lot of them are garbage. So I'm very much I still feel lost when it comes to that particular queer community. I still don't know where I fit. Uh, I think I think most of my friends are actually like, well, I don't think I have a single cis hetero friend. But most of my friends are queer in some capacity, but I think I really, really get along with like gay men or men who love men and stuff like that. But me myself, I don't find myself attracted to men. So I'd from a drama perspective, it's kind of just like I don't like the divide between like, oh, you either have to be hyper masculine or you gotta go hyper feminine. And that's sort of like, well, why can't I just be me? Why can't I just do my own thing? Like, why do I have to be this way? I don't particularly care for or when people say to me like now that I'm living my life as male, I get this all the time like, oh well, you know, yeah, you have to fix this. And I'm like, I just because I take tea doesn't mean that I'm somehow mechanically inclined. I still am not good with my hands. I don't know how to build things. I don't know how to fix things. I'm not suddenly taller. I can't reach things that I couldn't reach before. You know, like, yeah, I'll carry more bags and more stuff. I have noticed a little bit of natural strength that I've gotten. So yeah, I will, but I've always done that. You know what I mean? Like I've always done those things. But people really, really like, oh, you really gotta man up. You gotta fix things and do stuff and blah blah blah. And I'm like, that doesn't define masculinity to me.
It's almost like you're saying that it's proven that gender roles are all bullshit.
They are. They are. They're all fucking nonsense.
And
Honestly,
it's
like when Joyce had like car troubles, honestly, like I'm literally that meme of like Buzz Lightyear with the long neck that's like, the engine is made out of engine. You know, like that's literally me when Joyce pops the hood. And granted, Joyce don't know much more than me, but Joyce at least knows where all the fluids go. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't know where any of this shit goes. And nor do I care. And that's the other thing is like I don't care. I don't care about cars. And then people really rag on me for this particular thing. I love racing like video games, but I hate cars. And
but racing video games are nothing like driving or maintaining cars. I fucking know how to like figure out problems on a car, and I drove forever, and I'm a very good driver, and I fucking hate racing video games. I loathe them. They're my fucking bane.
see? See? There is my point. You know? I really couldn't give a shit about cars, but like I care about the car stats in racing video games because that's just like the stats of the car that I want to drive to win the game. So I don't know. I get a lot of shit from all angles. I don't think I necessarily encounter queer drama. If anything, I think I encounter more heteronormative cis drama that's like pushed on me from my friends and family, like, oh well, you're a man now, so you have to do this. You're a guy now, so this is expected of you. And I'm like, get the fuck out of my face,
Weird.
because no, you
That's
know.
so opposite, because with me it was like, well, it's obvious we can't make you conform, so let's be hands off and just see what she does.
Yeah.
Like,
And like I don't know, it's also a little awkward like with my mom. I think she feels the need to kind of like validate me in some ways. Like on Christmas I video chatted her. They just moved to Florida. I video chatted her and she's like, "You're looking good." And I'm like, "Thank you." Like I didn't look good before. You know? Like I know what she's saying, but I think she means like, you know, you're looking good. And I'm like, okay, like
attaboy.
yeah. So it's just awkward. I think I just encounter more awkwardness than anything because I don't really get along with hyper Because, like, I don't really get along with the super, super hyper queer people, and I don't get along with super hyper, like, cis heteronormative people. I really exist in that space in between. And I guess here's the closest thing to drama that I encountered. And so I went to Midwest Fur Fest at the time of this recording. Let's see, this was the weekend of December 7th, I think it was. That's when I went. So we're recording this on December 11th, just for context for when this comes out. So over last weekend, I went to Midwest Fur Fest. It's out in Chicago, and I was invited to apparently a banger of a room party, and I was like, okay, cool, I guess I'll go. Get a drink or whatever, and bounce out, because I don't like parties like that. I don't know what to do with them. Like, I just stand there and drink. Okay, this is stupid. And then I found out that the party was like a sex party. And boy. I feel like when you invite someone to a sex party, you should kind of lead with that.
Oh, that was what Katie was talking about.
Yeah. And there was this whole thing, because I was supposed to bring like glow sticks to this party, but I thought it was just like, oh, bring glow sticks to the party for funsies. I didn't know it was like green means this and blue means that, and you know what I mean? I didn't know it was that until I got there to the con. I ended up not going to the party simply because I just didn't want to get involved in that fucking nonsense. No shame to anyone who did go. It was not my thing. One, I don't like parties, and two, I'm pretty damn monogamous, so it's just not my thing to like go and hook up with people and or just watch people hook up with people. It just felt really awkward to me. And the person who invited me, she I guess she just didn't understand why I was so aggravated that I was not notified beforehand that this was like a fucking orgy.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, it's just a party, this means that, you just wear this color glow stick if you don't want to be involved. I'm like, yeah, it's not so much that, it's just you didn't tell me beforehand, and I felt like that was just, I just don't think that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's very like breachy consent almost. Like,
yeah.
Am I like the way I would feel about it?
Yeah, it felt like I do not consent to attend this. And you know what? And here's the thing. If I would have known from the beginning, I would have probably gone just to like hang out or whatever. But I would have known what it was. I would have known what I was getting myself into, as opposed to going there for the weekend and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the situation. And I'm like, I'm glad that you are super open about this and whatnot, but yeah, don't just spring that on people. That's not cool. That's probably maybe the closest thing to like, I guess upfront queer drama that I've been in. I don't really want to count high school bullshit, because that's just fucking high school. I think there's a lot of expectations in different queer groups. So if you're a lesbian, you're expected to either be butch or femme. If and as a trans guy, and then some lesbians don't like the trans men because they're lesbians who've lost their way, and it's just,
my God.
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
turf.
Yeah. And then there's like queer YouTuber drama. Like, I found out that one of these trans YouTubers that I used to watch all of his videos and shit like that actually turned out to just be milking money from the trans community. He would just pretend like he didn't have money and what'd you say?
I said motherfucker.
Yeah. So it turned to be a whole thing. So I think I encounter drama more on a passive level, but it still does affect me, because it just makes me sit here and think like, well, where's my place in all this? And I honestly don't feel like I have one. I feel very disconnected from I guess from the trans masculine community in particular. The queer community as a whole, I feel fine because I just identify as queer. You know, I belong somewhere in that general grand scheme of things. When it comes to the trans masculine community in particular, I don't understand. I'm just me, and I'm not really represented in that community.
That's a very relatable feeling of not seeing yourself related in the community or not having connection to it. Like, I've met other people who admin groups that are used for discussion boards for trans issues in the areas who they themselves don't feel like they're part of the community, you know? And I feel like queer isolation is just as present as queer drama, and I feel like they're also they're very much correlated. I think
I would agree with that.
our fear of reprimand and just the drama that goes down, and like, we're all people, not all of us, but a lot of people who have trauma who are dealing with healing that, and it can be a messy business, you know, sometimes. So
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just hard.
But I would still say too that all of the tools that I gave earlier would still be the same tools that I would use to navigate these things as well.
I mean, yes, especially with like not giving away your sovereignty, making sure, but also in the same time too, making space to listen to other people, and they say that you're grossly misinformed, and when they're like taking the energy to educate you instead of just belittling you, pay attention to that and don't turn your nose up at it, because the amount of people who are willing to educate you to help you be better are very few compared to the ones who are willing to just tear you down.
Do you think we've said enough on this topic for today?
I think we've said a lot. Yeah, I think this has been this episode has kind of been here and there, but I liked it. I liked all the different things that we talked about.
I like the format of not having to stick to a rigid discussion topic, because it lets good conversations come up organically, like the meditation bit or the paranormal bit.
Yeah, you know what I also wanted to oh well, you know what? Let's do the send off and I'll talk.
Yeah, we can talk after.
Okay, so that's gonna wrap up this discussion. I have no clue what this episode's going to be titled when I actually go to edit it, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, so I think we're gonna wrap this up here. Check out our Facebook group. It is a private group, so you will have to ask to be invited to it. You just click I think it's either says invite or join. I'm not sure what it says, but one of us will approve you. We just don't want it to be a huge free for all of just everyone jumping in and bots and crap like that. So, we do a Facebook group. There's actually been some really awesome discussions happening in there. So I'm pretty excited about that. I love the selfies thread. Everyone posting all their selfies is one of my favorite things.
We should do like an idea for later.
I've actually been maybe thinking about maybe like live streaming in the group, because you can do that. Like doing like a Facebook Live, maybe like while I'm editing or something like that. People can see the amazing behind the scenes of me staring at my computer for an hour. But yeah, so check out the Facebook group, and we're on all the social medias, and you can check us out there. Please talk to us, give us feedback. We're always open to it. Create threads in the Facebook group, and yeah, we will talk to you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to banish.
Be good to each other.
And I'm gonna go edit the podcast.
We did it. Can I read a new age bullshit generator?
I think I got one too, so you go first. I
We,
was actually gonna insert mine like after that to lighten the mood. Mine is
we
amazing.
we exist as four-dimensional superstructures. Stardust requires exploration. We believe, we believe, we are reborn. Suffering is the antithesis of insight. Without awareness, one cannot believe. Materialism is born in a gap where gratitude has been excluded. Only a life form of the solar system may create this fount of life force. We can no longer afford to live with delusion. Where there is turbulence, transcendence cannot thrive. You must take a stand against selfishness. Have you found your circuit? If you have never experienced this reintegration of the quantum level, it can be difficult to vibrate. It can be difficult to know where to begin. Humankind has nothing left to lose. You and I are adventurers on the planet. The stratosphere is aglow with electromagnetic forces. The goal of electrical impulses is to plant the seeds of mana rather than bondage. Thank you.
Oh my god. Oh, so this whole thing is okay. I see. I didn't know what part of okay. See, it was funny. I'm only recently reading like the title here, and this just the title alone is like gold. This life is nothing short of an invocation fusion of eternal consciousness.
What the fuck? God, this website is perfect.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
You got to read the stuff below those, Scott. Like you just told me your headline.
Right, okay, so consciousness living is the truth of sharing and of us. Today, science tells us that the essence of nature is fulfillment. Although you may not realize it, you are divine. We are in the midst of a heroic maturing of science that will be a gateway to the cosmos itself. Who are we? Where are the great story? Where are the great story? We will be guided. We are at the crossroads of coherence and pain.
My God.
It can be difficult to know where to begin. Indigo child, look within and fulfill yourself. If you have never experienced this quantum leap of the creative act, it can be difficult to exist. It is in blossoming that we are aligned. The future will be an angelic redefining of truth. We must recreate ourselves and strengthen others. You must take a stand against turbulence. Only a seeker of the stratosphere may leverage the spark of healing. Ego is the antithesis of sharing.
You notice how there's actually like little sparks of wisdom in there? Like every sentence, there's like, it's like it does give you a little bit of message from the universe and the bullshit sometimes.
Yeah, I totally like when you in yours it mentioned about like suffering and wisdom and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, you're going somewhere with that one, you know.
Yeah.
But,
and when you were talking about like, what was it about healing, leveraging something?
Oh, here it is. You must take a stand against turbulence. Only a seeker of the stratosphere may leverage the spark of healing. Ego is the antithesis of sharing. That part?
Maybe. Yeah, I guess, I mean, because like ego is the antithesis of sharing does kind of make sense.
It does. I mean, I get what it's totally trying to say, right?
Yeah. Keep going, keep going.
That's actually the end of mine. Mine was really short.
Oh, well, I'll read another one. I'm gonna do it really dramatic too. Hang on. Reionized electrons. We vibrate. We live. We are reborn. Freedom is the growth of nature and of us. Intention is a constant. Yes, it is possible to shatter things that can destroy us, but not without being on our side. We must ground ourselves and inspire others. This story never ends. The future will be a sublime condensing of knowledge. It can be difficult to know where to begin. The world is calling to you via electrical impulses. Can you hear it? If you have never experienced this font on a cosmic scale, it can be difficult to self-actualize. Potentiality is the driver of awareness. To roam the myth is to become one with it. Today's science tells us that the essence of nature is life force. Who are we? Where are we on the great journey? And will we be re-energized? Shakti will remove the barriers to the enlightened person. We are being called to explore the quantum cycle itself as an interface between interconnectedness and ecstasy. It is a sign of things to come.
Oh my god.
Like,
Oh my god.
is it better with the dramatic reading?
It is just it all is just so perfect and like it's so perfectly horrible, but it's perfect.
You can tell I've spent some time around these fuckers, eh?
I could tell. I definitely could tell. I never even knew the site existed, and it's amazing.
Guidance requires exploration. To traverse the vision quest is to become one with it. Karma is the growth of love and of us. We must learn how to lead transformative lives in the face of yearning. Yes, it is possible to obliterate the things that cannot exterminate us, but not without our gratitude on our side. We can no longer afford to live with dogma. You must take a stand against materialism. If you have never experienced this harmonizing of the creative act, it can be difficult to reflect. How should you navigate this holistic planet? Indigo child, look within and heal yourself. We are in the midst of a pranic blossoming of space-time that will remove the barriers to the quantum soup itself. Throughout human history, we have been interacting with the quantum cycle via pulses. Our conversations with other dreamers have led to an unveiling of hyper non-dual consciousness. The goal of four-dimensional superstructures is to plant the seeds of healing rather than ego. Who are we? Where on the great journey will we be reborn? Humankind has nothing to lose. We are at the crossroads of beauty and selfishness.
Oh my god. Oh, it's all.
Yes. Know your worth, hon.
So much.
You are valid.